The Mommy Wines podcast is a Mommy Wines Network and Emma Dawn production. Brought to you by Coffee Over Cardio, NakedWines.com, and Zaya Active. Okay, wine moms, I have an announcement. I will no longer be taking a commission from my Zaya Active sales. Instead, I want you all to shop through the Mothers Without Borders event when you visit my Zaya Active website and snag up your favorite activewear. Every quarter, I will take the proceeds from the event and donate them directly to Mothers Without Borders. This is a nonprofit organization that aids orphaned children and empowers the local women living in Zambia. I recently had the pleasure of meeting this organization's head operators and connected with their mission. Now, since a 33-hour flight going across the world would leave me in a constant state of pure and utter panic, I am donating my revenue instead of my lack of laborer or chef skills. Nobody wants that. To do your part to help and join the cause, all you have to do is shop the Mothers Without Borders event on myzaya.com/Emma or you can donate directly at motherswithoutborders.org. Yeah, I'm excited. I want to get involved in whatever you got going on because it sounds great.
Thanks. Yeah, let's see what happens. Obviously still trying to, some of the things that I want to do right now in terms of being able to generate revenue is we're going to put together a swag store.
Cool.
And you can do that online, right? Where it's you design all of the different items and then that company actually produces it and ships it for you.
Oh, yeah, that's how my merch is.
Yeah, it's great. So I think that that's a great way to generate a little bit of revenue, branding and marketing, right? Getting your brand out there. So we're hoping to launch that in the next coming week. We're also considering doing an I Fund Women campaign. So I Fund Women is crowdfunding, but specifically for female entrepreneurs. So anyone out there that, needs that resource. Yeah. So we're hoping to, so that's part of why I want to do the merch, right? Because then we can use the merchandise as some of the items that you would actually purchase in order to help us with the crowdfunding campaign. And then probably some other levels on there will be sponsorship, opportunities and things like that. So I'm hoping to do that, kick that off in the next couple of weeks. It's the holidays. I feel like people might actually, people are naturally a little bit more, giving and charitable during the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping that, and obviously so many people know about what I'm doing. So I'm just hoping that it's hey, we know what Robyn's doing, let's support her. I hope that that's kind of the mentality, So we're hoping to do those couple of things. But yeah, I think right now, I still have to figure out the personal income side of things, right? So it's I can create a base and exhale while still being able to build on this. I have a pretty good template in terms of, the interviews that I put out there. It's an interview template. So I just email it out. You type up your questions and you send back your bio and your headshot, right? So that's great.
Oh, that's super easy.
Easy content to produce. The features on businesses is a little bit more involved. And so I have to kind of just get into the mindset of doing one a week. And it's sometimes hard because I think that I just have to be in the right environment for the words to flow out, onto paper. So there's that. And then in terms of the other types of content, so I have contributors. So I have about 8 contributors right now, which has been great, because they look at it as an opportunity to build their own personal brand, right? And to be attached to it.
Is that blog contributors?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So that's been great. Managing it, can kind of get a bit hairy, but it's been great.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that's coming up right now is we want to do an official launch party. I'm Everyone likes a good party.
Everyone likes a party.
Everybody does. And so with like the Silicon Slopes Tech Summit coming up at the end of January, we kind of want to like piggyback on that, because when they do the Tech Summit is also the same week that Sundance is on. So there's just a lot of activity here, you know, in the Valley. So we want to do it the night before they kick off the Tech Summit.
Ooh.
So that's like pretty strategic. So we're working out like the logistics of that right now. The building where I live right now, they want to host it with me, which I think is great. So then I don't have to worry about space.
That's
Because
nice.
space can get tricky, you know? And then it's just a matter of putting together like, you know, what is the whole experience going to look like? So we're putting that together right now. So I think like, you know, in terms of like being involved, I mean, we're always looking for contributors.
Awesome.
So that's like number one. And I would say that we're also always looking for people that want to email us and be like, hey, you know, my friend is like the owner of such and such store, whatever that looks like, or she is such and such executive at like this company. So we're always looking for women to profile as well. And so, I mean, I've done a pretty good job. We have this like huge running list of women that we want to interview. We can always add to that because I don't know everybody on the Wasatch Front, you know. So we're always looking for that. And even suggestions too of like, hey, you guys should really feature this business. So those are just some of the ways in which people can kind of get involved.
So is W Collective, is it just an online presence or is it like a co-working office
Just
space?
online. So
Okay.
it's just online right now, and it's mainly content. Next year, we're going to start to do those all-female cohort, you know, courses and master classes with key people. So then there's going to be that. Eventually, I would love to do a co-working space, but I'm looking at the industry really closely right now because WeWork, you're familiar with WeWork. So WeWork is kind of blown up. So their IPO failed. They were going to go public, you know, on the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
Their IPO failed. So their board of directors pulled the IPO. They forced the CEO founder out. And they're basically burning through cash like nobody's business. And so I'm looking at that really closely because I want to kind of see over the course of 2020 what happens with WeWork and what happens with the industry altogether. Because, you know, I mean, I don't want to add to my brand, you know, an aspect of it that's going to be like a faltering, you know, like business. So I'm looking at it really closely. Also looking at, you know, a couple of the other co-working spaces that are downtown that are female focused.
Mm-hmm. There is a couple of them.
Yeah, there is. So there's the Wave and there's Lady Bird Society, and they're very different, very different spaces. Just different in terms of their offering. Different, you know, areas. One's like the heart of downtown. The other one's near like Pioneer Park, you know. But looking at it too, because I also don't want to add to the competition. I'd rather us be complementary than adding to the competition.
Are you a coffee lover just like me? Sipping my morning Java is the only way I can keep up with my toddler and busy lifestyle. That's why I love Coffee Over Cardio. Coffee Over Cardio is a premium coffee company started by female entrepreneur Abby Scott. Whether you love a good flavored blend or a strong roast, Coffee Over Cardio is ideal for any jitterbug. They are also carb-free, keto-friendly, sugar-free, and gluten-free. So pretty much that means they're completely guilt-free. Try Coffee Over Cardio's most popular flavors today: French toast and new Doctor's Orders vanilla hazelnut. Yum! Make sure to use code 10EMADON to save at checkout. Once again, that's 10EMADON at coffeeovercardio.com.
But yes, my dream would be to also actually have a space. My business model would be completely different because I don't believe in an all-female co-working space in that way, because I mean, if I'm building a business and my co-founder is a guy, well, he's going to have to be able to work there.
Sorry, you can't come in. You can't sit with us.
And not saying that those two spaces do that, but I want it to be a little bit more progressive. Like, even when you go to the W Collective site, we have an advocates committee of men.
Yeah.
And I strategically put that together because I just think that the goals that women are trying to achieve need the support of men instead of pushing them away and kind of being like, no, we got this. To me, it's not about we got this or not. It's about the fact that from like a societal perspective, right, what we want to achieve as women, men would like us to achieve that as well. Like, we know that those issues affect the whole of society. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, you can't just get rid of men altogether. And it's not like every single man is a misogynist.
Well, exactly. And I just think that...
we have to keep them around for, a couple of things here and there.
Yeah, right. Well, like, for me, it's just like... We live in a patriarchal society, but it's not as though like a man stood up one day and was like, we're going to rule the world. It just organically became like that for a myriad of reasons, like religiously, from a society standpoint. There's so many factors. So for me, I just think that, we do ourselves a disservice by having a lot of these like women only, type of, companies or organizations or whatever, because it gives the impression that like we don't need men, we don't need you. But I just also think it's a really like aggressive feminist standpoint that like is really not doing us any good. So the advocates that I have, what they're saying is like, we support, right, giving women a platform, to learn about who they are and what they do and what their career is like and what their business is like and all that kind of stuff. And what they're also doing is, they're connecting me to women that we should feature. Eventually, some of them want to like write about women. So they want to write about, women either that they admire or that they've mentored, or, maybe it's a colleague that they work with that, is like a rock. I just think that message is really important. So we are very different from a lot of other, female focused, let's say, organizations where we believe that together is better.
Yeah. Well, too, like you mentioned, there's a lot of, I feel like, especially here in this area in which we are, there's a lot of either like it. And this is a mom-focused podcast. I'm not going to mom shame anybody, but there's either the more very traditional views of being a mother and working at home, or there's this other extreme. Everything is just so extreme, from the weather to the terrain to the belief system to the way people talk. It's just so one way or another. There's no gray area, I feel like, in Utah. And it's either this traditional way of living where women stay home, or it's this,
or you're a working mother.
Women first, women this, women that. And it's like, I love women. Like, I'm a woman. Women are cool, but it's different. It kind of takes away from the fight of equality when you're totally downgrading one to uprise another.
Who creates that? We do.
Yeah.
Mommy Wars wasn't created by men. Right? Like, let's think about this, ladies.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's just kind of like, we bash women if they stay at home, or we bash women if they're working mothers. Who cares? Right. Because at the end of the day, it's about choice.
Yeah.
I actually responded to, so Susan Madsen is, I believe she put together the Utah Valley Women in Leadership organization, and she's a super prominent woman here. And she writes about all sorts of topics of conversation on women, particularly what's happening with women in Utah. And so her latest piece, I think it was in the Salt Lake Tribune, she was talking about that a lot of times for women, it's either or, and how we should embrace and. Yeah. Meaning, it's like, it's either you're a stay-at-home mom, or you are, maybe you can have children, but you're like a working, woman. It's either or, right? Yeah. It's like it's almost like we're forced to choose, where she's like, no, if you just embrace and like whatever that means for you. So for her, it was like, no, at some point for me, I wanted to do more with my life, right? It's like, yeah, I had my children. I think she has 4 children, but she wanted to create in her life. So she wanted to be a, you know, mother and a career woman, and not have to choose between the two. And so I responded by saying, like, for me, at the end of the day, it's about choice.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, it's like, if you choose to be a stay-at-home mom, well, you should be celebrated because you made that choice, right? That is your, like, you empowering yourself to take a stance and be like, I feel empowered as a woman by being a stay-at-home mom. Awesome. Yeah. That's great. And I and no one else should say anything about it, right?
Oh, man, and I wish I could just... I wish I could turn, like... You know, like, some people are like, oh, you need to... you know, relax and practice self-care. And it's like an important thing. But it's like, for me, even like my massage therapist the other day, and this is so relevant because this was literally like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like talking through my whole massage. And I'm pretty sure like my massage therapist was like, shut the hell up. Like, you need to relax. But it's like, I can't, like, my mind just goes and goes.
That's okay.
And I'm like, man.
But that's like, but you make that choice. Like, and you should feel empowered to make that choice. Like, if you're not satisfied with the status quo, great. That's up to you to make that choice,
that's
right?
True.
And it's just like for women, if you want to be a working mom and you feel empowered to make that choice, no one should say anything to you about whether or not that's bad. That's you and your life and your choice. You know, so I just was like, you know, because the other thing is that impacted as well is the reason why a lot of women are in the either or category is because maternity leave is pathetic.
Oh my gosh, it's like, so bad.
Another podcast episode. You know, like, childcare is ridiculously expensive. It's not accessible. Like, it's just awful. And I don't even have, you know, a child yet, but I just hear from other friends and what they go through. And other things too, you know, whether it could be a family or friend opinion on, like, the choice that you make, right? Or whatever that looks like. It's like, if women were just able to have choice, that you could afford that choice, you know, gosh, it would be so much better, you know? So I will say that what's good about her talking about these, you know, issues is I think sometimes that she writes these to kind of, you know, penetrate our special community here. But
you are so graceful about it. I wish I had the tact to just be like that graceful about it. Like, you're getting to the point now.
I love that community. I just want them to be more open-minded. I want them to be more accepting of things. I want them to understand that, like, if your wife, you know, decides that she wants to go out there and get a job or, like, whatever that looks like, that is not taking away from anything. If anything, it is enhancing who she is as a person, right? And if you enhance yourself as a person, you're going to be that much better of a mother and a wife and a friend, and you know what I mean? Because you're doing something for yourself.
Fill your cup.
Yes,
you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I was so nervous because I didn't really have much of an option to stay home or not. I had to stay home because I was moving across the country to a place that I'd never even been to Elko before I moved there.
Wow.
But my son's dad took a job up there, and I didn't find a neighborhood here in Utah that I liked, that I felt... Because what I was really looking for was, I had this idea of, if I ever had kids, this is how I would raise them.
Yeah.
And when I was told I wasn't going to have kids, I was like, well, okay, that needs to go. Right. I don't need that taking up space in my brain. Right. I'm going to move on to something else. And then when the option came of, like, how WTF, I'm pregnant.
Right. Right.
I was like, okay, so suburbs, white picket fence, you know, a Toyota Corolla in the driveway. And, you know, life is going to go on. I tried to find that like suburban Midwest kind of life that I was raised in, because I was raised in a small, quaint suburban town, you know, with like a historical town square.
Right.
And like all of these things. And I was like, okay, well, that's where you raise kids.
Right.
You know, like that's what you do. You move to the suburbs if you have a kid, and that's just the way I thought life worked.
Yeah.
And also, I have friends that are raising their kids in like New York City.
Me too.
But it's like, for me, like that.
New York, LA, St. Paul, like,
yeah.
like big, congested, you know, densely populated, expensive cities. Yep.
Well, that thought process, when it left my mind, Mm-hmm. So I went back to what I knew, and I was like, okay, kids are in the suburb. I was in the suburb. There were kids in my neighborhood. That's what you do. Because I only had 9 months to figure out all of this thing. When people had, like, you know, my friends and people that I went to school with, they always thought, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm going to grow up, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to have this career, I'm going to meet a guy, and I'm going to have a family, and this is what my life is going to look like. Well, when I was told I couldn't have kids, it derailed all of my plans. It was like, okay, well, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah.
And then I had Milo, and when I came out here during my pregnancy, I was already like 6 months in.
Wow.
And we were looking around at neighborhoods here in Salt Lake area. And I told my son's dad, I was like, I don't like any of these neighborhoods. I don't think this is a place where you can raise a kid. Not knowing the culture here has like 6 kids each, and there's kids freaking everywhere. They're a dime a dozen.
Right.
But I'm like, I can't raise a kid here. This isn't my vision.
Right.
And, you know, I wasn't as open-minded as I probably could have been, because I was like, you know, like and
what
it was
do you
condensed.
even know? What does anyone ever know about Salt Lake? Now it's different, but even a few years ago, you just think that it's a smallish kind of town compared to an LA and New York and San Francisco, whatever, and it's Mormon. Like, what else do we know?
It's crazy, too, because I was never even in Salt Lake before I came for that visit.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I was like, well, all of the research I did on Salt Lake was people go there to ski, they don't live. Or it's the metropolitan city of Utah, which I came in and I was like, I don't want to live in a metropolitan city. I want a small suburban quiet town where if my kid wants to ride his bike and he ends up in the street, he's not going to get ran over by a bus. Right. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that I've been here a year, I'm like, okay, it's not as metropolitan as my original, thought. Because
downtown Salt Lake, yes, where I live, for sure. But quickly out, even like surrounding downtown Salt, there's wonderful neighborhoods that have that suburban kind of feel, you know, like right in close proximity to the city. That's why I like it. Yeah. You know, so yeah.
But I'd never even been in Elko, and I forget what this tangent even was, but I had moved to Elko without even ever being there.
Really?
Yeah.
We've driven past Elko.
Of course you have. Everyone has.
When we used to live in Reno, so it's like, you know, driving in and out, that's where you drive past.
That's where the highway takes you.
That's right.
Well, unless you're a minor, you know, you don't need to go to Elko.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Unless you're, you know, a part of the gold rush.
Yeah.
You know, looking to dig up $1 million. You know, there's no reason to be there.
Yeah.
However, I love it. It was so quiet.
So you've been in Salt Lake for a year?
Yeah, I moved July of 18.
Okay.
So a little bit over a year.
Okay. I've been here 5.
Wow.
Yeah. I love it. I love it with all of its crazy, quirky...
Really?
Madness. Yeah, I do.
I'm struggling. And it's crazy, too, because... people have said, they're like, oh, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. You just have to stick it out your first year, and it'll start getting better. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll rip it off. I signed a year-long lease, and I was like, okay, well, I signed a year-long lease. I'm not going anywhere for the first 12 months. Yeah. And I think with the recent issues that I've had, not only trying to get back into the workforce, but... especially
the mentality.
Yeah, the mentality. And I was, during my exit of the job that I just left, they literally encouraged me to move back home. And they're like, they told me, they're like, you're not really fitting in or the kind of ideal
I've gotten that
candidate.
too. I should tell you a story. I won't name the company, but the CMO. So they went through a merger and like an acquisition, right? So they acquired this company. And obviously, like anytime you acquire a company, right, like budgets are going to like shift and move and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so they had let me go, and my boss didn't want to let me go. So he was pressured by the CMO at the time. But he told me so that I would first hear it from him before hearing it from the CMO to kind of like lessen the blow, right? But basically, they told me that my strong personality rubbed some people the wrong way. And I just was like, where am I? I was like, what is this place? Like, I couldn't believe it. And when I finally got in a talk with the CMO, he was like, you know, Robyn, he's like, you've got that like East Coast style personality that doesn't necessarily do very well here. I was like, really? I was like,
Maybe
well,
that's my
I'm
problem.
Canadian. And he was like, well, you know, that Montreal, I'm like, I'm from Toronto. So I was like, clearly you have taken
Doesn't even know
zero time in your life to even get to know me.
Right.
Okay. But anyways, he got fired 6 months later. So
Of course
karma.
he did.
But that was the first time. So this was beginning of 2016 where I knew I was living in a different place because I've never come across that in any other city I've ever lived in. Toronto, Montreal, New York, LA, Reno, Park City, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I have lived in places. You know, I've traveled to so many different places and never. And so I was like, okay, we're in a different kind of place, right?
It is a different kind of place.
The mentality towards women is, you know, a little bit different. But I didn't let it deter me because I just felt as though that was that one incident, you know, and especially when I heard that he was like let go, then I knew that it was even less about me.
I wonder if it's the same boss. I wonder if he got hired somewhere else and...
Well, he came with actually like a pretty questionable background. So it was interesting that as we kind of got to know him and then realizing that like, you know, whatever talk was happening about me, right, in the company was kind of happening at the same time, you know? But it's funny because when I ran into a couple of people, like a couple of years later, you know, they were like, Robyn, there was maybe like a handful of like 4 people that like had this like attitude, but we were like, the rest of us were kind of like, no, we need people like Robyn here. You know, we need like women like this because we have to create, you know, a much more like dynamic, diverse, and inclusive, you know, environment at work, right? It's like we can't just be in this cookie cutter mentality of that, you know, women are always going to be in these like admin, coordinator, you know, middle management like positions, and they'll never go above that because it's like, well, women don't do that, right? So there was a lot of people there that were kind of like, they didn't want to see me go.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure even with your, you know, experience, it's that similar kind of thing. But the thing is that Utah needs us like very badly.
And I'm so vocal about it. Like, and for me, it's, I don't sit here and say things off of like emotion. I say what happened and maybe how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sitting there making things up, getting emotional about it, because I'm more of like I'm a creative thinker, I'm a logical thinker, but I'm not so much an emotional thinker.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was crazy because I was sitting there and like you said, a lot of it was, oh, well, this person said this about you, or this person said this about you. And obviously me being a newer person outside of the
little circle,
air quotes, outside of, you know, I don't even know what to call an organization, you know, like they kind of picked the side. And in my exit, they were like, yeah, you're just really not fitting into the Utah culture here. And and then I was like, well, I'm not from here. I've been here a year. You know,
should have said, "What is the Utah culture?"
I know what the Utah.
I have heard that answer.
I should have, but it's like ridiculous. I already know what they're saying.
Why? Because it's like some widespread statewide cult. Like, come on, people.
Well, literally.
You know, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. And so, yeah, it's like women are not supposed to be outspoken. We're not supposed to be bold. We're not supposed to have these bold opinions. Like, I know what that mentality is.
Are you a fan of the Mommy Wines podcast? Well, of course you are, or you wouldn't be hearing this right now. One of the best ways to support the show you love, besides obviously tuning in every Wine Wednesday for new episodes, is shopping the Mommy Wines merch store on teespring.com. This is where you'll find all of the Mommy Wines branded goodness, mugs to hold your coffee over cardio morning Java, iPhone and Samsung cases, premium ultra soft hoodies perfect for upcoming cooler months, and of course, flowy tees and tanks flattering on every mommy out there. Go shop the Mommy Wine storefront on teespring.com and make sure to use code WINEMOM for free shipping.
But the thing is so people are flocking here for a number of different reasons, right? Like, these tech companies are flocking here for a number of different reasons. One is that it's easy to do business here, which is great. Like, that's great that we have that, you know. Obviously, a lot of people love the quality of life, right? The skiing and all of that in the winter, and the hiking and the camping and whatnot in the summer, right? Like, we have a really wonderful lifestyle here, right? It's affordable for now.
Ish.
That's changing, you know. But what's so interesting is that these same companies that are coming from, the Bay Area or wherever other part of the country are coming from cities where they are drastically different from so it's ironic to me where it's just kind of here are all these big successful, billion-dollar companies, $100 million companies that are moving here, right, from cities like San Francisco or wherever, where they understand diversity and inclusion. And I know someone probably listening might be like, well, there's the women in tech issue, and for sure there are issues, there are underlying issues, for sure they exist, right? But the general kind of environment is that you've got women that are in important, powerful positions in any of these companies, right? And they are bold women. You have to be bold in order to move up the ranks or start your own company or whatever that looks like, right? I just find it really funny that there's just this juxtaposition between the growth of what's happening, but then people just thinking that little small, minded Utah is never going to evolve because, we're Utah. It's impossible.
Well, you know what I came across is my interview with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, my interview, because I absolutely filed a claim. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was completely asinine that a grown
I should have filed a complaint. Man. But when he was fired, I was like, woohoo, that was my justice.
It's just crazy that two grown adults, a man and a woman, can sit there and say the things that they said to me and think that it's okay.
I agree.
I was just like, you can't do that. Mm-mm. I'm not going to sit here. And before I had my son, I maybe wouldn't have thought to file a claim because in Ohio, my work experience, I feel was far more valued.
Right.
But now it's I did take those 2 years off and I'm in a new place. I don't have the connections that I have before. Right. And I have my son now, so I have this, mama bear, okay, yeah, you're letting me go. You're saying these things about me, but that's my son, and this is affecting him, so I'm gonna I'm no, you can't do that. Yeah. Because, if somebody was messing with me, fine, mess with me. I don't care. Say what you want to say about me. Do what you want. Have your opinion. Yeah. I'll move on with my life. But now it affects him, and I'm do not affect him.
Well, here's the other thing, too, right? In taking my story and in taking what you went through. why isn't the human resources department, whoever manages the people, right? Why wouldn't they take the time to be like, hey, a couple of things came up, right? And have a conversation about it and be like, what could we do to maybe, help with like your leadership skills or like whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
But to really have like a conversation about it, like, okay, so these people came forward and said, hey, my interaction with Robyn was, X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. Robyn, do you agree with it? Well, no. Or what, right? Like have a conversation, really dissect it. Maybe even get those same people in the room to talk about it and then be like, okay, how can we all be better, right? Instead of just cutting that person out, be like, oh, no, like you're too much. Right?
Well, you know what happened was I was contacted from an employee that has been there for a while, and I was blatantly told if I was a part of the popular organization here, that would have been the way it was handled. Or there wouldn't have been an issue with a couple of the people. And it's like my position, I was hired on to design an apprenticeship program for mortgage loan officers.
Okay.
I didn't work with anybody but myself. Really. I had a couple loan officers that I would bounce ideas off of, I would work with. They were helping me being like, okay, if I had an apprentice / assistant or whatever you want, because what the program was doing is because credit unions in Utah, credit unions are everywhere, but there are a lot in Utah.
Yes.
You don't have to be state licensed to be a mortgage loan officer.
Right.
So what they wanted me to do was because they don't have to be licensed, they're coming across this compliance issue where people aren't educated and they're making really, really bad but simple mistakes.
Yes.
And so what they wanted me to do, because I am a licensed, in the mortgage industry, they wanted me to develop this program where they could take people who wanted to be MLOs and kind of work as an apprentice.
Yeah.
Figure out...
Which is a great idea.
Yeah, figure out the tasks, kind of assist the loan officer, work hand in hand, do a lot of the compliance stuff, the background stuff, also giving the loan officers a chance to network and build more business.
Yeah.
So that was my job. I was to design and educate people in that role.
Yeah.
So I really didn't work with anybody. I kind of had a couple loan officers that they would be like, okay, well, it would be great if the apprentices could do this and this.
Right.
And they would show me how they do it. And then, because I was supposed to be designing the program for 6 months to a year and then training the first group of apprentices.
Yeah.
But obviously that didn't happen. So I really didn't work with anyone. But one of the things that was a huge problem that I think is kind of hilarious was they had this kind of birthday tree, I guess, where... So if it was my birthday, the person who had a birthday before me would bring me a treat of my choice, and then I would bring the person who has the next birthday a treat of their choice. So it was kind of like this pay it forward system. Yeah. Well, since moving to the beautiful land of treats and cakes and sugar, I have gained so much weight. And I was like, okay, first of all, my birthday is cursed. I don't know about you, but it's cursed for me. Nothing good ever happens on my birthday. So I don't want to risk everybody getting, like, I don't know, food poisoning or something crazy happening.
When's your birthday?
October 6th. So I'm like, I've never had a good birthday.
No.
Literally, something has gone wrong. Last year, I was dating a guy for about 1.5 years, and his house flooded. Like, seriously, it's like a catastrophe every day, every year on my birthday.
Oh
so I told the woman, I was like, you know what? Don't worry about bringing me a treat. It's fine. I'm trying to diet and eat healthy anyway. My birthday's just cursed. Just if you see me in the hallway, just say happy birthday and let's just keep it quiet. And maybe we can celebrate or do something like the day after.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, your birthday's cursed. How can that be? And I'm like, no. It is. Just trust me.
Yeah.
Like, the craziest things have happened on my birthday, and it's never good. I'm like, I should be like a sci-fi channel movie, And
oh my gosh.
So that was a huge issue. And I'm like, are you serious? You are a middle-aged lady. You are a grown adult woman. And you're sitting here and you're just like, she threw the biggest fit about it. And I think it's because treats are kind of like the break in that company. Like, everyone would get up and they'd sit around and they'd eat their treat and then they would go back to work. So, like, birthdays were huge to do. And I'm like, you know what? Like, let's just do whatever you want to do on, like, the 7th, you know? Like, on a Tuesday. Like, let's leave first of all, my birthday was on a Sunday, so they were going to celebrate on Monday. And I'm like, but no, I'm telling you, I swear, it's cursed. I'm not even going to lie. And I'm like, and I've gained 30 pounds since moving to this place, so I don't need any more cookies. Like, I'm good. And
so they were insulted by that.
They were so insulted by it. And I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious? I told the person who had a birthday after me, I was like, I'll still bring your treat. Because it was one of the loan officers that I worked with. So I was like, I'll still bring you a treat. I just don't want one particularly. Yeah. I'm like, unless you want to bring a vegetable tray, but that's not going to be fun for people.
Well, but I mean, like, say if someone has, like, an allergy, like, gluten, like, whatever it is, like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, they were very offended by me refusing my birthday treat in a polite, professional way.
And then I'm sure that snowballed to, like...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That was, like, the catalyst that...
It completely snowballed. Mm-hmm. And then there were... it was just...
But then it's always
terrible.
Like, and I guess this is like the, you know, the philosopher in me, but it's just kind of like that's then the place that you don't want to be.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, obviously, even just being there a little bit, I knew I wasn't going to be there forever.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I would have either built up my consulting business again. Right. Because I was a consultant a long time ago. I've taken clients here and there throughout the years, but I've never had like a very big, consistent book of business. Yeah. And I was kind of going that route anyway. Like, I was working towards building that back up.
But you know what? So I'm going to tell you.
But they just nipped it in the bud.
I'm going to tell you. So this is like my philosophical side of me. But it's almost as though that the universe wanted to force you out so that you would really go after what you really want to do, right? Like, maybe. That's how I feel about the situation that happened with my job earlier. Like, yes, I wasn't happy, and, you know, and just even thinking about, like, what am I going to do? And, right, like, that whole, you know, mental, like, stress, you know? And sure, yes, like, I was worried about my mother-in-law, but then I was also just worried about, like, myself, right? Like, getting up every single morning and just having this feeling like, ugh, I really just don't want to go, right?
Oh, I hate that.
Right? And so, you know, when like my, you know, boss like called me in, and I knew, you know, so it's just so interesting because in my mind I was like, should I start looking for another job? Like, what should I do? Right? Because I really
I feel like you
trapped.
Always kind of know. Like me, I'd never been written up. I'd never even been spoken to in a disciplinary way. But I walked into that room and I kind of
You kind of know.
Yeah. Like, you can't... I don't know. It's kind of like... You know how psychics say everybody's a little psychic? Like, I feel like you can't have people consistently talking bad about you before you start realizing that people are talking bad about you. Yeah. Like, I kind of just knew, which was crazy that I had that feeling in the first place because, well, it's actually kind of ironic because I turned in my first 90-day project review. Like, I was supposed to submit these, like, 90-day, like, I guess, work plans or process, you know, reports or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it was basically, like, the very basic outline of the job description and how to do each task that the loan officers want from apprentices. Yeah. And I'm like sitting here and I'm thinking, I was like, okay, so I turned that in on Friday. On Monday I come to work and this is what happens when I've had no write-ups, I've had no disciplinary action, and it's like I've shown up, you know, my attendance is good, I went through the trainings, I come in and I do my job every single day. you know, and it's like, obviously, like, I have my son. I don't have a lot of, like, it's weird too, because like when you're in school and you're growing up and you're in sports or you're going to class, you're forced to interact with multiple different groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're an adult, especially when you have a toddler, it's like the options of finding friends and meeting new people is really limited.
So 2 things.
Oh, play dates or work.
Well, there's that, but I mean, so one thing is, like, I wholeheartedly believe that the universe wanted you, like, knew that, like, this wasn't for you and needed you to, like, go out there and, like, figure out what was going to be right for you, like, for sure, because that's how I feel about my whole situation. And even though it's been super challenging trying to find, like, another job, but, like, the connections that I've made, like, all the stuff that I've been doing, I mean, I wouldn't have started the W Collective.
That's true.
Right? So it's like...
And that's a cool thing you got going on.
Yeah. So I feel as though, like, okay, like, that's what I was supposed to birth, like, during this time, you know? So that's, like, one thing. Another thing is that that's part of the reason why we have the resources section, because, like, sure, being a mother, right, one of the social things that you can do is, like, the play dates and whatnot. But maybe say when I have an opportunity, let's say when your son is with his dad, right, then to connect with these women organizations and the events that they're doing, that is, like, the next best way to connect with people. There would have been no way for me to have had founding members, an advisory board of 6 people, an advocates committee of 5 men, and 8 contributors if I wasn't out there networking.
Yeah. Let me know when that's going on, because I'm down to do it.
Because even if it's like a couple times a month, that you can go out and just, like, because the whole idea, now granted, people will be like, well, if, like, you're, you know, an introvert or whatever, it's hard to be in, like, a networking environment, and, like, I get that. But I think that, like, that's when you really have to kind of just, like, put aside for a second that you're not, you know, an introvert, and really take the time to, like, connect, you know, with someone. Like, all of the networking events that happen across here, I think that is some of the best ways to meet people and to grow your network, and just to feel that you're actually growing, like, your social community in some way, shape, or form. So if all that you're ever doing is going to these, you know, networking events with other women, I think it's still better than only segmenting yourself to, like, only, like, play dates, because that's only one part of your life.
You know what? I was actually thinking about this, and I was like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and, you know, because when I was going to work, I was throwing myself into work, and then I was coming home and I was throwing myself into, you know, my home life.
Yeah.
Because it's weird, because, you know, like, I go to work and then I pick up Milo at 5 o'clock, and then I have to come home. I have to make dinner.
Yeah.
And it's just me and him here. You know, I don't have a husband who can pick up the slack or, you know, cook a meal every couple of times a night.
Yes.
You know, so it's like I have to clean my house, I have to make dinner, and then I have to get him in the bathtub, and then I have to try to put down this tiny terrorist and get him to go to sleep and, you know, get clothes on him, because he can't just be in a diaper all the time. You know, try telling him that, but, you know, he can't.
Yeah.
And and it's like, by the end of the day,
You're
tired.
exhausted.
And with it just being me and him, then, like, oftentimes, like, on the weekends and stuff, I have to clean my house.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems I was having, and one of the things that I said is, like, okay, well, I get it. Like, okay, maybe I don't fit in and I don't have a bunch of friends here. I'm like, but I'm throwing myself into work, and at the end of the week, I'm tired.
Right.
And they're like, well, you just need to make more of an effort if you want to live here. And if you don't, then maybe you should go back home. And I was like, okay,
that's just awful.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, and they're like, have you tried meeting women who aren't moms? Because those are the people who are going to want to go out at 10 o'clock at night. Those are the people who are going to have the freedom.
That's what I'm saying, right? And even if it's not necessarily about going out at 10 o'clock at night, right?
Right.
A lot of these networking events happen between, like, 6 and 8 at night, right? And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, if there's an opportunity where it's like, you know, you're able to either get a babysitter or, you know, dad can, like, help out, awesome.
Yeah.
But, like, that way it's like you're not going, like, out, because, like, quite frankly, like, sure, I mean, going out every now and again, having a couple of cocktails is fun, but like, it's like, are you really connecting.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So like these networking events, you really are making like a valiant effort to like me, like, what do? You know, like, do you have your own business? Like, what company do you work for? Like, what are you, mom? Are you like, you just get to meet like all different kinds of people.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think like that everywhere where we've ever lived, that is what we've done. We have connected with, normally it's like the startup kind of tech entrepreneurial community, but they're the ones that are always out, you know, like at all sorts of different events. And I don't know, you're meeting people from like different age, different background, male, female, like all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I think like that's a next best thing, that you're meeting people of like your community.
Yeah. I had that little spark when I had Vanessa from Ladybird on. I don't know, did you listen to her episode?
I didn't.
But yeah, I had her on, and she was talking about like networking events and things like that. And it's kind of nice because they do have like a child care area of their co-working space.
Yeah.
I was like, but still, if I wanted to drive all the way downtown and this thing goes until 8, then I had to drive all the way back. And it's like, you know, I wish I could find things because my son's dad has him on Friday.
Okay.
Every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then into the afternoon on Monday.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, if I like could just do things where I don't have to worry, like if I could just like not have to worry about if my kid's escaping or if he's crying or whatever, if I could like do something on like a Friday evening.
Yeah.
You know, like that would be ideal. And I think I have to find ways to like figure out when these events are going on. Because that, after I was talking to her, that kind of sparked it. I'm like, maybe I need to get out more. Maybe I need to interact. Maybe I need to meet people.
Thing. So Silicon Slopes, their offices are in Lehigh. So for me, it's not much further, right, from where you are right now. They do a lot of Friday at noon events. So it'll be kind of like a fireside chat or a panel discussion, whatever. They usually serve lunch, which is kind of nice, you know. And again, you know, I don't know, again, this is very tech entrepreneur startup oriented, but it is a great community of people. And so I think that if you just kind of take a look at like, you know, there's like Utah, what is it? It's like Utah Marketing Collective. They do a bunch of events. And so if you were to kind of connect to what they're doing, there's LinkedIn Local, which is also great.
Oh, yeah. I noticed
Local.
that.
I mean, it's 3 to 5 maybe on a Thursday, you know. So, but if your son is actually like, is it like daycare or school or house?
Yeah, he goes to daycare.
Okay.
Well, I have his daycare 5 days a week. He doesn't always go, but
okay. So like that might be an option. And hey, even if you went from like 3 to like 4:30, do you know what I mean? And then went to like pick him up. So there are, I think, really great options out there that, you know, are not necessarily like the 6 to 8, you know, are not necessarily like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They're closer like on the weekends. But I think there are some really good options out there.
Just gotta dig and find them. Well, even if it
is
is like
we're trying to curate. So like another month from now, you can like come, like we'll be your resource, so you can actually see the list of different events. And then
awesome.
So that's what we're trying to do, instead of you poking around and like, you know, figuring out like what's on Facebook and Eventbrite and Meetup. Like we're trying to curate what we find online, and we're putting it all on our events page.
Well, that would be ideal.
Yeah,
that's great, because first of all, I have an iPhone and it's filled with pictures, so I can't download any more apps. And not being from here, I don't know people, because like typically if I was in Cleveland, somebody would reach out and be like, oh, hey, there's this event going on, do you want to go?
Right.
Or I would be in the community already, so I would know.
Yeah.
But here it's like I'm just kind of like in my little townhouse, and I'm just kind of hanging out, and I'm just like, okay, I need to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's gonna be like my go-to spot, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
And if it is techie, small business, startup style stuff, that's what I specialize in.
It's a great community here.
My bookkeeping experience and my payroll experience, it focuses on small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So if it's a startup or a small business, I'm all over that.
Ding, ding. You might get clients. This
Maybe.
Is what I'm saying.
I might make friends and I might get clients.
Ding, ding.
Light bulb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, how crazy is it that it's like dark?
I had 5:30.
I had to turn on my... This is what I use when I need to do like Instagram Live. I was like, let me turn on my thing.
I know. Winter. Yeah, 5:30. It's dark.
I'll break this episode up into 2 different parts. But yeah, did you share with everyone where they can find We Collective?
So, okay, so the...
Or W Collective,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to cut that out.
So,
W Collective.
the URL is thewcollectiveco.com because the domain just wcollective.com is almost $3,000. So we'll get there. But for now, I was like, okay, let's just buy whatever we can. It's like the closest thing to it. So it's thewcollectiveco.com. On Instagram, we are the W Collective Co as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn. So those are our 3 social channels: LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And like what we're trying to do right now, because it's mostly me, so we're trying to do 1 interview released a week, along with something else. So either a business feature or just a great, piece of content on leadership or career tips.
The podcast would be so much easier for you.
I know. But it's like you kind of almost have to do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You have to do like online content and then you have to do like audio content, whatever. So so that's where people can find us.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
You're definitely going to have to come back. And also, that's going to be a hard episode to edit. It's almost 2 hours
I know.
Today's episode of the Mommy Wines podcast was brought to you by NakedWines.com, Zaya Active, and Coffee Over Cardio. Do you love the show? Show your support by shopping the Mommy Wines podcast merch store at teespring.com. Or by becoming a monthly supporter of the show by clicking the support button at anchor.fm/mommywines. Or you can use the support link in the show notes below. Have you been wanting to start your own podcast? Join the MW Podcast Network. All info on the MW Network, merch, partnerships, coupon codes, episodes, blog posts, and so much more can be found at themommywines.com. As always, thank you for listening, and until next week, Wine Moms, parent and drink responsibly.